if you need more seats, we have an entire hallway back here of several hundred seats. I don't think we'll be needing all those, but just in case, we can always grab a few more as we go. And also, please note we are videotaping and audio taping this panel today. So if you're here with someone you shouldn't be here with, sign a release. Okay, sign a release. There is at your place, and we have a few more here. I got 2 more of these evaluations. I'm on the board, the vice chair of the board of Arts Northwest, and we welcome you to this session. We also really would like your feedback on the session, and anything you want to say about the morning, the panel, us, the room, the convention, the coffee, the lack of coffee. That's okay. And fill it out and give them to me before you leave, or you can certainly leave them on the chairs or the tables. And we are endeavoring our best to make sure that these panels and the whole conference is relevant and accessible and meets your needs and hits your expectations. So anything about that would be very helpful to us. This, just so you know, this panel is called You Want What? And it's basically going to be a very informal conversation with our special guest about presenting, promoting, and packing the house. And so far we've got this this house is just about packed, so we appreciate you helping fulfill our title. Are there any questions or anything? Anybody's got any, not so much about the topic, but just anything about this panel? We will go for an hour. There was a typo in the email that went out this morning, so we'll go to about 10:30, giving you plenty of time to get over to the showcases at 11. We're just going to switch this up a little bit, and I'm going to introduce our guest, and then our guest will introduce me, and then we'll sort of start jumping into it. And I will simply start by telling you that Dan Steinberg started. That's me. That's him. Let's check our name tags here. Started at the age of 16, booking and working at a place in Denver called the Mercury Cafe. And he then went to Seattle, started a company called Square Peg Concerts, which now is called Square Peg Productions, which I would like to, at some point before the hour is over, know why he named it Square Peg. He has booked a lot of shows in many of your theaters, and especially ours, and around the country has booked everybody from Kathy Griffin, Paula Poundstone, Chris Christopherson, Straight No Chaser, Mount Merle Haggard, Daniel Tosh, Cheech and Chong, and currently working with Jason Moran's. He has been nominated 3 times for the Pollstar's Independent Promoter of the Year. Now,
one day they're going to make
that's yeah, he is not a loser. He is a nominee. He has.
It's funny. It's just how my mom put it.
He has 3 offices: Seattle, Denver, and Nashville. Now, let me tell you why we at the Tower Theater like him. Number 1, he is a regular and dependable and professional client. Number 2, he has done the research and he knows our market really, really well. And number 3, every year he sends us some really damn cool swag. We have gotten everything from T-shirts to hockey pucks to
bobbleheads.
And yes, our favorite is, I think it was this year, was a Dan Steinberg bobblehead. These are things you cannot re-gift. And I always like to ask one thing about myself and about people and about the world at large, which is, what is it that I know for sure? So in this case, what is it about Dan Steinberg that I know for sure? And that is that Dan always speaks his mind. So you will get very honest and straightforward advice and knowledge today.
Well, it's 9:30. You can water down.
It's all yours, sir.
Okay, well, I want this to be the most entertaining back and forth panel you guys have had at a conference, and I'm willing to bribe you guys. So right off the bat, we got some voodoo donuts.
Oh!
Back, everybody share. This will be enough for everybody. I want you guys sugared, amped up. I see you got the coffee. Let's have some fun. Not above bribing you. This is going to be a good time. I've known Ray for a long time. He's got an amazing history. For those of you that don't know him, He started back as a talent coordinator for Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. Let's say that one more time. Worked for Johnny Carson. He was an agent at William Morris. A lot of other awesome talent gigs along the way, but has been at the Tower for quite some time. Could be at a much bigger venue, but chooses to be in a very highbrow city, the Aspen of Oregon, we like to call it. Booking acts that are way too big to play a 400-seater, and yet somehow, most of them say we want to play there again. Please figure out how to route me back to the Tower. I don't care about the money, which is not something I'm used to hearing from my ex. So Ray puts us in a situation where we can do that, and that's been an awesome partnership.
Thank you. Let me just jump into this by asking Dan, all right, folks, what does a promoter do besides promote? And more importantly, how can we, as presenters and artists, have a better relationship with you and people like you?
Well, at the end of the day, we're looking for promoter-friendly venues. And what that comes down to is not saying no. And I know that it's a hard thing because we have boards and we have financial issues and we have mission statements and goals and we're educating and we have grants. But at the end of the day, our job is to make the artists want to play the room. And whatever we can do to work together to make that as easy as possible, jump through the red tape, so I can get the act on your stage and fill one more dark night. So you're bringing extra revenue for your market, and together we're bringing arts to your market. So we're making not only a financial gain for the revenue for the market in whole, but we're bringing an extra show to the market for everyone. And that's the goal at the end of the day, is finding a room that wants to work with us to make that easier versus, no, our list of patrons is for us. We're not willing to email our fans to let them know that you're bringing a show to our room. That's one of those first things that's a warning signal. It's like, I'm going to hear a no a lot from you. It's like, okay, if I'm bringing a show into your room, I want it to be our show, regardless of the fact that I'm the one with the risk on the line.
So what are some of the other things that make it friendly for you?
You know, you pick up the phone and you have two vibes from a venue. We're excited, we want the show, and we want more arts in our community. What can we do to bring more arts? That's always a positive vibe of what can we do to bring more? What can we do to help? Versus it's not our job is always a turnoff. Or it is what it is promoter's worst nightmare. Is what it is by definition saying to someone, I don't care enough to help you. If you want it, that's the way it is, but I really don't want to do any more effort. It is what it is a deal killer.
Do you walk away when you hear that?
No, I mean, sometimes you force the play. It's like there's a night where between City A and City C, and you got to fill City B in there, and sometimes you do. But when I'm routing tours, and I have a lot of say on where the acts that we do the majority of the dates on, play. So we're looking for venues that are easier to work with. We're going to do 485 shows this year. Spending too much time on that random city that we had to beg to do every last thing that they should have wanted to do anyway because it didn't cost them anything. It just made it for an easy day. We're trying to make the best event for the artist. We want the artist to be happy so the audience is happy. It's like if the fan leaves happy and the artist leaves happy, we all did our jobs. Anyone that wants to get in the way of that for no other reason that they wanted to get out for coffee 15 minutes earlier is just making all of our lives harder because we're just trying to make the arts happen on the stage. Our job is to bring that music live to your city, and especially when you're not in Seattle or Portland or San Francisco where we're going to play anyway. The second I have to deviate from the 5 with the bus, it becomes that much harder to convince the manager that it's worth going over the pass. It's like, if we break down over the pass, it's not going to be that easy to get a tow truck in there on the way to Bend. That's a fight that I hear a lot, versus if I break down between Portland and Seattle, we'll be still at the show on time.
So it's more about the location than the actual numbers of seats in the venue, or, because I'm assuming
sometimes
you wouldn't even bring a venue to the manager unless it penciled out to some degree.
Well, I mean, we don't play Pullman, Washington a lot because there's a big campus there, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Spokane makes more sense because it's on the main corridor.
Okay.
It's like as you're heading into Boise from Seattle, it's like you hit that real easy and you stay on main highways. It's like, that's a good thing. I have to veer off to go to Pullman. To veer off to go to Bend too, but everybody loves going to Bend. It's not easy to get to Aspen either, but somehow everybody wants to go.
Let me ask you, for sort of definitional purposes, what's the difference between an agency and a promoter?
Well, the agency handles
And
the
a
act.
manager. Let's do those.
Okay, well, sure. So you got the act, right? So let's assume the acts we're talking about are bigger than garage bands. They've actually got a record on the shelves, on iTunes. They've got some traction. Call it an Ani DeFranco, where we know the name and the patrons in our community want to see the act, right? So there's a manager who is involved with every part of their life process, from when they record, when they are in the studio, when they are touring, when are they going to vacation, who's in the band, doing the budgets for the travel and the album, and so forth. Almost a business manager for the music industry, so to speak. And then you've got the agent who just works on the live side, who routes the tour. It's about contracting every single date they play, whether it's a festival, or a concert, or a benefit, or a really expensive wedding gig that they don't talk about. Like
Is
that all
that
goes.
labeled private?
Yeah,
Okay, that's the private list?
the awesome dates. Enjoy the chicken. And then we work with the agents and managers to do as many of the live dates as possible. We're called a concierge promoter, as we don't just rent one venue. It's not about the market we live in, it's about the act. So we do as many dates with the same artist all over the country and through North America as possible. So in the case of Straight No Chaser, we'll do about 85% of their hard ticket business this year. So they'll do some casinos, they'll do some festivals, they'll do some Performing Arts Center series stuff that is aside from us. But most of the dates that are one-offs, that are rentals, especially on this side of the country, is us.
And how do someone who has not worked with you before get to work with you, or contact and get into your world?
Well, we want to know that everybody exists. There's about 835 venues that are on our active list right now. And what that means is we have the expenses for the room pretty well dialed. Obviously, the labor for a comedy show is a lot more cheap than doing a Jason Mraz-sized production. So everything's relative, but we have an idea of what it costs. I can usually figure out what a show is going to budget at the Tower within about $600 from my first estimate.
And that's about right, Shannon, our venue coordinator.
And the idea is to be able to do that in as many venues as possible. So we have 835 venues that I can do that within a matter of seconds on our software. So like, as soon as I know how much production the artist is carrying, what their catering needs are, and what the venue is like, and our relationship with the venue, relative to all the other shows we've done in the room, we can figure out what's going to cost to do Paula Poundstone there versus what it's going to cost to do Straight No Chaser there. And I can do it quick. The thing is getting in the system, having that relationship, having a very thorough phone call about what's your production in-house, what do we need to do, do you bring in sound for a concert, for a big concert, can you do a comedy show on your in-house system, what works. In the case of your room, your system is really good. It's very rare that we have to bring in stuff. I think Home Free brought in some subs, but they like the low end, so that was not about the venue, that was about them. We're doing that everywhere, regardless of how good the system is around the country. So we're seeing more and more of that, and what we're learning is we need to be carrying the subs on the trailer. And that's something that's new for them that they'll pick up soon. You know, on the next run, I'm sure we'll have the subs with them, so we won't have to augment, we'll just be carrying it. And then figuring out what the act's carrying. Like in the case of Straight No Chaser, we've added a video wall. So I know that I need a last truss across the back to carry the weight of the video wall, and I know that I need the clearance for the video wall because it's a big part of the show. So knowing that we have it, I know that some venues are too small for it now. Like, the stage size is important. There are other acts like Alice Cooper where he has 3 trusses running across that can't be cut down. Straight No Chaser can cut their show down and make it work where I need them to, if it's important. Whereas Alice Cooper can't cut his show down. It's a certain size, and the production is no flex. It has to fit the room, or we don't do it.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a couple of community concert associations here that want to book Alice Cooper, right?
Ray, come on.
Let me see hands of presenters, by the way. Presenters in the room? Okay. Let me ask a presenting question, Dan, which is, and this is somewhat mundane, but it always comes up, which is the rider. A presenter gets a rider from you because you're promoting and booking the act. What is non-negotiable, what is negotiable, and what is just BS?
It's part of my Jewish heritage. Everything's negotiable. We have an awesome stamp that goes on everything. First of all, our offers to the acts are always based on per budget. The deal is based per our budget. They've agreed to accepting the date. per the budget. So when they send this rider that has 17 pages of catering, and you've all seen this rider, right? We thought it was going to be an evening of singer-songwriter music and not 27 crew members and 6 opening acts in their entourage and family. And, you know, we just take the stamp and everything was per budget of the offer, and we crossed through every last thing of it, and it says per advance. You can have whatever you want. You can spend all $600 that we gave you any way you want it. But there's no way that this is $600. So you tell us per advance what you're willing to cut, because you got $600. Spend it however you want. That was the budget that we all agreed on. It's like, and then they respond with that's the contract, and you remind them that the deal was based on the budget, not based on the rider that wasn't provided until after the show confirmed. And you know, it's usually at that point the agent gives in and sings the "We Want to Work with You Again" song, and everybody finds that middle ground of, okay, great, maybe we don't need 7 Starbucks runs during the day. We'll take 1, a deli tray will work for lunch instead of catered lunch.
But isn't it true that acts get out on the road and find out that, oh, we forgot to put in the rider that we need the B3 Hammond, not just a synthesizer, and we can't do the show now without it. And that wasn't in the rider. Presenters didn't make that deal. We didn't have that in the budget. So.
Well, and that's your opportunity to negotiate with them and say this should come back out of your guarantee because it was your mistake not to include it. It wasn't that you didn't give me a chance to budget it, and my offer was based on the budget you sent me. You sent me the rider when I based, you needed backline. One of my favorite agents in the world. Do any of you work with Todd Walker? Todd is one of the best.
Windish? He's with Windish now?
Todd, yeah, he was at IMM forever. Todd and me have a great relationship, and he booked Lady Smith Black Mambazo with me forever. And Todd always had that moment where we confirm the date and go, oh yeah, and I need backline. Right after the show we confirm. And the whole show would be budgeted on them carrying everything. It turned out they'd fly, and then you'd have to figure out how to figure out where this $2,500 was coming from that you didn't know existed originally. It's only fair that everything gets renegotiated together as a conversation than them thinking that you've already signed the deal and there's a gun to your head because it wasn't part of the deal. There is an offer and acceptance rule in law that says the second somebody changes any part of the deal, your contract no longer is enforceable. So you get to go back and renegotiate everything. Now, we want to work with these agencies and these artists over and over again. So the idea is to be flexible and work. If there's money there and you know the show's going to sell out and there's a percentage deal and just a show cost, it's like, great, whatever, fine, it's a show expense. No harm, no foul. But if the show's not selling and the money has to come from somewhere, it should just come out of your budget. There should be compromises of splitting or them eating it completely if you're in a bad scenario because it was their mistake. And a reasonable person will own up to that. And the manager and the agent will usually come in and kick some of the commission in, and the artist will kick some of the guarantee back. And maybe you kick a little of yours in too. But at the end of the day, everybody wants a good show, and so everybody helps a little bit to bring it together. But if it's not your error, because I know if it's my error, then they expect me to pick up every cent of my mistake, no matter what.
Right. As a promoter, when is an ideal time for you and for presenters to advance a show?
I have no problem with advancing on anyone else's schedule. Unfortunately, it's usually about when the artist is ready to advance because my conversation with the venue becomes very limited. I know it's in the rider, but the rider is usually out of date, right? So it's this thing where we need to load in at 9 a.m. and it's based on them opening for an arena or something, and then it comes down to, we don't need to be there till 2, and you budgeted this labor. So you really need that conversation with the production guy from the tour telling you what he really needs versus what's on that piece of paper. And as soon as they kind of dial us in on what their day is going to be like, it gets easier. Now, the great thing about us is our production guys are doing not just one date with the act. Once we've advanced one date for the tour, we can advance the rest of the tour that we're involved with. So usually, on an act like Tedeschi Trucks, where we're playing multiple markets, once we've figured out the first day of the tour, we can budget the rest of the tour, and we can advance every other venue on the run, knowing what they need.
Another presenting question. How do you know, how would we know when we should rebook an act? If it did really well, we want to have them back at some point. If they didn't do really well, and we figure out what our mistakes were, how long do you think is an optimal period of time to bring back a performer into your market?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good question in general because every act is different, and there are things that you personally like booking for yourselves. There's probably one show a year you book for yourself. It isn't as much about bringing arts to the community as this one's selfish.
Anybody want to give up their idea? Give that one up? Give that one up? Yeah, I got a few.
I do it, but if you can make it work financially, it's great. So the idea of booking an act too soon, first of all, if you didn't make money last time, unless there's any new reason that makes you believe there's a reason to bring them back.
But the agent will say, you now have exposed them to the market. They've never been in the Northwest before. We got to break this market. We got to build a fan base. You were instrumental in doing that, even though you didn't sell out and you only had a half a house. That word of mouth is going to be great. Bring them back, and you will see an incremental build.
You always notice before the show is booked, it's we. Once you're losing, it's me. But yeah, those agents are really quick to forget. It's we. Once the show is played, they want you to come back. It's like, we need to do this. And when you have a problem on Saturday night, we aren't picking up our cell phone.
So what do you say to that? You're saying if they didn't sell out, then they probably are not going to sell out the next time.
Well, no, I think there has to be a good argument. Okay, I paid you $5,000 and the show came up $1,500 short. That's $1,500 that I didn't get to recycle and bring more arts to my community. So I get to do less dance this year because I have a $1,500 shortage. What do I get to do to make up that $1,500? Because if I'm not at least breaking even, I'm costing other arts for the community, right? That's how you look at it as a series book, right? So, are they coming in $1,500 cheaper? Is there a new album that makes them that has a song on the radio? Is there something? Is there an online video on YouTube that all of a sudden my kids want to go? What are they bringing to the argument besides the fact that I just lost money and I should lose more money? Chasing a loss with more loss isn't exciting to me. It just seems like we've done that, now how do we bring it back? There's got to be a reason.
So flip that. They were a hugely successful act, and everybody's clamoring to see them more and right away. Is there a period of time that you need to let it cool off, and at what point does it cool off so much that you've lost the heat of bringing it back?
It depends. I mean, you watch the trend. In the case of Straight No Chaser, it blew up so quickly that we sold through these theaters immediately. And we added an extra week to the tour, and I went back and hit some of the venues we played the week before because they sold out too quickly. Like Fresno, I sold out on the onset. It was sold out before the end of the first day. It was like, there's more demand there. It was like Portland sold out within a week. It was like, there was more demand there. It was like, then I went and added a couple of markets that we hadn't played, like San Diego and Sacramento and San Jose. But it was at that first run where we played Jury.
Yeah.
It was like that, how quick is the demand? It's like, if the trend is that there was so much time left and we left money on the table, there's no reason not to go back and grab that money. If the
Go back when?
As soon as possible. If there's a moment, like, I literally had Straight No Chaser play Fresno 2 Friday nights in a row because we sold out and I knew the demand was there, and the manager agreed and the date was there. So I routed back, I filled the week, and I took the extra day and we sold it out again. It was like, the demand was there, it was fine, we saw the trend. If a show just sells out 3 seconds before the act walks on stage, we didn't leave a lot on the table. We booked the perfect show and probably continued to spend ad money all the way through. If you have an ad budget and you didn't spend 85% of it, clearly there's a buzz that's still there, that there's something to go back and get. So if the trend demands more, there's no reason not to go back and grab it immediately. If you sold it out, but you just sold it out, it's like, that's great, it's worth a replay, but maybe we wait 2 years because we want to keep the demand up. Maybe it was a good show, maybe it was a mediocre show, maybe the idea is most of the people that came this time probably won't come next time. We figure about 70% of the audience is usually new when we recycle the market and play it the second time.
No matter the length of time.
Well, and that's the thing, the longer you wait, the better the percentage of repeat is. But if you replay an act too soon, we find that about 70% of the audience tends to be a different audience from last time. You're going to get the hardcores. They're going to follow them to different cities in the region. They're going to go no matter what. You could book them 5 nights in a row. They'll show up for 4 of those nights, and they only miss the 5th night because it was Mom's birthday.
Okay.
It'll happen. But in some cases, and I think diversity in your booking is what you're there for. It's like, it gets really easy to book the same acts over and over again in the same rooms. And and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I don't know how many times I've done Paula Poundstone in your room, but every year.
3 times? 4 times?
No, way more than that.
4.
I think it goes before maybe even you were
Okay,
born.
maybe so.
But yeah, I mean, traditionally, like George Winston, like some of these acts I just booked historically over and over in the same room because it'll sell out. It's like it's an easy one. Every 2 years, you just take it. It's like you're leaving money on the table if you don't. But does the community want it? And are you bringing something new? If you're not excited about it, it's hard to excite the community, and that's usually the first place you got to start. Is this something that I'm excited about? Because if I'm not, it's going to be a lackluster performance for the community anyway.
We'll take some questions. Any questions on presenting? So I want to move to promotions as well. Question? Yes, sir.
When is an appropriate time to work on a percentage basis if you're real iffy on an act? Do you do that at all?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, say that you do a percentage basis based on the game with the artist.
Okay, the percentage deal?
Yeah.
The deal is really a matter of what you're comfortable with. In all actuality, the percentage deals leave you more space to do more shows. If the act is good for it, they're going to earn more money on the percentage deal. If you give them that opportunity and they know it's there, they'll take a smaller guarantee. And that'll give you the opportunity to do more shows. Because the percentage is all based on profit anyway. So if you're comfortable with the concept of it, and usually in the presenter world, there's less of them because it seems a little complicated, and it's really not. Once you take a minute to look at the percentage deal, it's not that complicated. But it's just easier to go, this is your fee, regardless of what you sell. But in that particular case, the artist is getting as much up front as possible, because regardless of how you do, they don't get another penny. But in all actuality, it's an insurance policy for you. You get the lower deal, and how the basic percentage deal works like this. A promoter profit deal would be all of your expenses, a smaller artist fee, a 15% promoter profit on the artist fee and all of your expenses, and then you split the proceeds of what's left in the net after all those things are covered with the act. And usually it's 85-15 in the artist's favor at that point. But you've already made your 15% promoter profit on all of your expenses before they get a penny.
And where do sponsorships that the presenter gets fall? They're not a part of any of those pots.
No, you usually when you're putting your offer in, you make it known that you have a Toyota sponsorship or a Wells Fargo sponsorship as part of your series, and this would fall in that series, just so they know it. It's some people have a problem with Budweiser. It's like they don't drink, they're AA, they don't want an alcohol sponsor. Some people have other issues, it's like you can't have an ammo company sponsoring, folk tour most likely, it's more for Ted Nugent tours.
Any other presenter questions? We can come back to that in a minute or two as well. Let's move to promotion and promoting. Dan, how do you and how would we, as presenters and promoters ourselves?
See, where are we again?
Yeah, where are we? I don't have a contact right with you right now, so where are we? What resources do you use, and that we could maybe use, to help predict how an act might do in our market?
Drug test your audience. You're in Oregon, they're all going to know that. Seeing how many followers they have on Facebook, you can go to the friend page. It's always a good thing. You get the agents telling you the band is huge, and then you go to Facebook page or Twitter. If you go on Twitter and you find out that they have 600 followers for the nation, they're probably not going to sell 400 tickets in your room. If you go on Facebook and you see that they have 3.5 million likes on their page, you're feeling pretty good about that. And then when you start to go buy ads, it can tell you how many people in your area actually like that particular ad by keyword. So if you add in the keyword, the Avett Brothers, when you're buying an ad on Facebook for your city, say Eugene, it tells you how many likes they have in Eugene, and you get a really good idea of how strong it is. There are many services like that, but I like Facebook because it's the most active. I mean, my mom's on it, so it's just like it's gotten that wide at this point where.
So you're doing Facebook ads?
We spend a good amount of money on Facebook ads. I'd say on the club shows we spend $75. On the small theater shows it's like $125. In the real theater shows it gets up to like $750. In the arenas it can get up to like $4 or $5 grand.
Can you walk us through how those Facebook ads work? Because there seems to be, I've heard some controversy about, well, you really can't pivot those into ticket sales. It's all about building community and letting people know what you're doing.
Well, I mean, we're talking about paid ads, we're not
Yeah,
talking about posts here. I think that's wrong, first of all. We spend a lot of money on it, we see that we can just do Facebook for some particular acts and it'll work. Now, clearly it matters what crowd you're going for and identifying, when you have the opportunity to place the keywords on Facebook, taking time to pick those keywords is so important. So in the case of Paula Poundstone, we're very, very particular about the keywords. It's like Paula Poundstone's obviously one of them, and then all of the other big gay and lesbian comedians that have big, even if they're not gay, but they have that following. You know, it's like I always attach like Kathy Griffin and Ellen DeGeneres, and then go after the keywords like gay and lesbian in the market, and then comedy, and then it's broader. I go after the Librarians Association, which is also there. I go after NPR.
And that's because she has a library chair.
Right, and then I go after Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, which is a show that she appears on a lot. Like, getting as many of these keywords that connects. When we do the Trailer Park Boys, which are a Canadian comedy group, I put hockey on as one of my keywords, because if you had a Venn diagram of the Trailer Park Boys fans and the hockey fans that are in America, it's really, really close. So, it's like figuring out where your audience is and dialing it as close as possible before you place that ad. Because, if you just place an ad for a show that's coming to town and don't put the keywords on there, or just put that one artist, you might be missing something. But if I'm doing Jason Mraz and I'm leaving off Dave Matthews and Ben Harper and Jack Johnson, I'm probably missing a lot of fans.
So as a promoter, how do you prioritize the sometimes amorphous social media, then the print, and then your radio and TV?
It's act by act. It's still demo based. We do a lot of classic country, Don Williams, Merle Haggard, and in that world, Chris Christopherson. Finding those people is not the same as finding kids that want to buy tickets for a Death Cab for Cutie show. I can identify that I can find the kids for Death Cab for Cutie very easily online. They're going to the band's website, they're very interactive on Facebook. Finding a Merle Haggard fan is a little more complicated. I use daily print. I actually run ads across from the obituaries. It's true. It's the most effective thing for that show.
Go ahead and
We gotta start doing
specify why
that.
that is.
All of their friends are dying. But we do that.
But you don't do that in the Ben Bulletin, which is a daily paper. You put
Ben Bulletin's this thing. What we do in the Ben Bulletin is we run a 2x1, and we run it through every section of the paper throughout the course of the week. And
so it's a small ad.
Right, it's a 2x1, but we pick up the frequency by running it every day, and then I rotate and hit every section. So the people that are home that are reading the paper, I'm bound to catch them if they're reading it. If they're a subscriber, they're going to pick up, they're going to catch it in one section.
And that's better, you think, than having spending the equivalent amount of money or more money and having a really large color display?
Color in daily print's worthless. It's a day ad, it's gone in a second. It just doesn't make any sense. In the weekly it's different, but in the daily, it's pointless. It's just a waste of money. As far as like trying to find someone reading a daily paper and taking one shot at them, is hard. It's just so much easier taking a smaller stab and trying to get them, and hopefully get a repeat once or twice that week.
What about the entertainment sections of papers?
Well, I'll hit that. I try to make sure that on Friday I'm next to movies.
Okay.
On Sunday I want to be in travel, arts and books. It's like Tuesday is the biggest news day of the week because everything gets announced on Monday that happened over the weekend. So the Tuesday paper, is when the administration announces everything that happened over the day, so everything hits the print on Tuesday. So that's the biggest print day. It's the biggest online day too. So that's the day I want to be in hard news. I want to be up front.
And then where do you put radio and TV?
It depends. Some acts, if they're big enough and mainstream enough, you want to be on the Tonight Show. You want to be next to Fallon, or you want to be on Letterman. If you have the budget for it. If you can afford Oprah, you're dealing with a really mainstream act. Because even in your market, Oprah's really expensive.
But most of us can't. We can barely afford.
And it's not Oprah now, it's Ellen.
Yeah, right? It's Ellen now. But most of us can't, and we will get maybe a trade deal with the local, in our market, the local cable company, and they will give us $2,000 worth of ads, and they just seem to rotate in places that we never see.
Okay, well, you should definitely have some say when you're taking that trade of where it's playing. I'm a big fan of cable. You get a lot more bang for your buck because you're getting. I'm a big fan of hitting it over and over again because I don't think that you see a poster or a flyer or an ad once and decide you're going to something. I think when you see something the 7th or 8th time, you're realizing it's a big deal and maybe you should pay attention to it. So I'm really big on that. Cable, you can buy 200 spots or you can get 8 spots on network. So we do a lot of cable advertising. I'm big on like things like the History Network. I love to be on American Pickers or Pawn Stars. It's like people are watching these shows. Food Network is great. People are watching American Chef. You know, it's like, it's things where if you're watching it, other people are probably watching it too. Comedy Central, you know what people are watching because it's what people are talking about at the water cooler on Monday. It's like the thing that Jeff Foxworthy said to the cable guy. It's like, gets repeated. People are watching it, and everybody knows the joke before you get to the punchline because they saw it too. That's where you want to buy your time, where people are seeing that stuff. It's like monster trucks for a Paula Poundstone show probably doesn't make any sense. But if I'm doing Foreigner and Journey, man, I'm all over that.
Promotion questions, advertising, PR, promotion.
You guys sugar. Come on, wake up.
Is there a standard guideline as far as percentage or how much you would expect to spend on advertising and promotion per show?
The rule is 10 to 20%. And the way you figure that out is how cool the act is. The cooler the act, the less you're going to have to spend, and the rest of that money's going to them anyway. So,
And I found too that we have a old-fashioned marquee with 3 lines and 20 spaces, I think, per line. If I can put a name on that marquee that basically says what the show is, then I have to spend a little bit less on promotion. If I have to say, the brother of the founding member of XYZ, or explain.
I love the brother of that guy.
But then or explain what the theme means. If it just says, it has a theme title of some sort, like Music Through the Ages, and History of the American Songbook written by Frank Sinatra and sung by. I don't have room for that, and what I mean by that is I also don't have room in my advertising budget because that's going to cost me 20 to 30% more of my money to explain the subtitle and why should you go.
You just summed up what my Judy Garland tour is not selling.
Not live, Judy Garland.
Celtic bagpipes.
Yes.
So how do you approach promoting lesser known acts if you don't have the same name recognition that you do with Annie DeFranco or something?
The building process is hard, and with that I think it becomes this question of getting with management, hopefully they have a publicist, and talking about your marketing vision and where they found is actually working for them. If you've got a good manager, he will say to you, you know what our best show of the last tour was? It was San Diego, and what they did there was this. Or our best day of the tour was San Diego, I don't know what they did, but let me give you Mark's number that booked the San Diego show, and he can tell you why it worked, because that wasn't our hometown, but that was the best show of our tour. And then you make a friend. You call Mark in San Diego and say, how did you sell this? What did you do that was better than everybody else that made it work there? And then Mark tells you that it happened to be the Super Bowl, the night before the Super Bowl, and everybody was just out drinking in town. You're back squad. No, but talking to the other buyers that you meet at these conferences and find out what they're doing that's a little bit off the grid and how to make that work. I spend about an hour of my day talking to other promoters and making sure that the lines of communication are always open. And whether it's us or Live Nation or C3 or AEG, nobody's hiding secrets. It's like if you figured out how to sell something, it's good for all of us. The app gets bigger everywhere. So we're all sharing that information, and a good manager is facilitating that as quickly as possible. This was the marketing plan for the show that sold the best on the last tour. It's like, copy it. Yes, ma'am.
How do you spread word of mouth, and do you recommend papering the house?
There's a question of word of mouth and papering the house. How do you do it?
Word of mouth, I think, is great. It's the best advertising. I like to announce the show as early as possible, get it on the website, spend some money early. I'm hoping that in the case of most shows, particularly with Straight Outta Chaser, we call it your mom's favorite band. The idea is that we get the wife in the house to buy tickets early and then tell her girlfriends that they're going to this. And then when she took her husband, he actually enjoyed it. It wasn't like taking to an evening of the symphony where he was pissed for weeks, that he sat through it and he pulled it over his head. And I'm hoping over time that if we get it on sale early enough, that the wives tell other wives and they all go together, do dinner, and it gets out, and that word of mouth spreads because I've been on sale longer. And that's how I count on that. I use the fan base that went before, selling tickets early, and let them talk about it, because my fans are my best source of reselling the show. I hate papering the house. I think it's a dreadful business idea. I think it's bad for your market. I think it's bad for the act. And I think it teaches the audience that if they wait long enough, you might give them a free ticket. And I think it screws your market long term, and you've got a financial problem forever. If you pay for the house, bringing the act back is death. Because anyone that got a free ticket told everyone they got in for free. Because it's like, how cool am I? It's not like getting on the guest list. People are bragging that somebody just handed them a ticket randomly. It's one thing when you get on the guest list, oh, I knew the band, because that's a brag thing. It's like, that's awesome. My friend plays drums and sticks. It's like, I got to go for free. Nobody else feels bad. They don't know the drum and sticks, so they don't feel bad they bought a ticket. But I was just standing outside the grocery store and somebody handed me a free pair of tickets to Sticks. Suddenly I'm really pissed that I just paid $85 per ticket for Sticks. And now I'm not buying any shows in your room for a while, because I'm waiting for you to hand me some tickets. I'm hanging around that grocery store.
That does raise the question of when is a good optimal time to put tickets on sale? How many weeks, months before the gig?
I think every audience is different. I'm a fan of as much time as possible. In the case of Straight No Chaser, as they've been my example for the day, we like to go on sale 6 or 7 months in advance. We usually go on sale Mother's Day for the fourth quarter. It's big that we go on. That's our big thing. It's a great Mother's Day gift. Do Straight No Chaser tickets for the week that falls on Christmas.
Okay. So, what's the minimum amount of time?
Some shows wrote slowly. So I did Puddle's Pity Party in Portland a couple weeks ago.
Say that again, please.
Puddle's Pity Party.
All right. What is it? What is that?
He's a clown that sings lounge music that's like 7 feet tall and scary. If you get a chance to go on YouTube,
I've seen it.
It's incredible. And on a Sunday night, 3 weeks notice, he sold out a 300-seater in Portland at a $25 ticket a week in advance.
We'll be showcasing tonight at 11:45. So that was a last minute.
It was last minute, sold out quickly. If it's hot and it works, it can happen. If in an ideal scenario, you're going to have 3 months to market a show. At the very least, you want 7 good weeks of marketing time.
Okay. Yeah, because that has been, I'm assuming some presenters are like us, that we love an act, it opens up at the agent's mind, oh my God, the last minute. In our mind, it's wait a second, that's 6 weeks out. Do I have enough time and money to actually turn that into a marketable show?
I've got a couple of acts that are really good about telling us they're going to go on sale Friday and it's Tuesday. And what cities do we want to go on that we're announcing for that, by the way. And that's where it really comes in handy, knowing the expenses of the room. And we've done this a couple times with you, where it's just like, hey, when you go on sale Friday, do you have this date open?
Right.
You're like, you were going on sale Friday? It's like, if you have the date open, we're confirmed. Like, do you have the date?
Okay.
And then it becomes this backwards thing of, great, we have the date, here's the ticket bill, and then the artist and me are still going over the deal. But we know that the ticket price is this, and we're playing this room on this night, because we know we only have so many options 3 weeks out that route out of Spokane on our way to LA. And great, Bend is open, we're doing that. Unfortunately, it's a little harder.
Question.
How much time do you invest and attention do you have to pay to when looking at booking a show somewhere? What else is going on that night, that week, competing? Like if you're booking Ani DeFranco, oh shoot, the Indigo Girls are playing the night before.
Traffic, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big problem, especially in the country world. It's all those acts that dominate the charts right now are all country acts for the most part, and they're all crisscrossing to the festivals, and they're on top of each other. So it's a really big deal. Plus, you can't book a show against college football or high school football in Texas or anywhere in the South in the fall. So knowing where those things play out, and so we all have to have these open communications. It's like when Frank's routing the Indigo Girls, we're hoping he's talking to Jim Fleming, and if he's not, we are. It's like somewhere in the middle of that conversation. What's the routing for Indigo Girls? Where's Jim at? Where's Dar Williams at? You know, getting Seth Rappaport on the phone and figuring
Festival,
out those
etc.,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to make sure that we're talking to all of those guys at the same time to make sure that, oh, we're in the wrong part of the country. We can't be there at the same time. And sometimes you can't talk the acts out of it, so you try to space it as much as possible. And traffic cop's a big deal. It's like, it's okay that last week in Eugene we had Social Distortion playing McDonald Theater and we had Dave Rollins playing McDonald Theater 2
Right.
days apart because they didn't cross over. But there were 3 or 4 acts that wanted to also play in Eugene last week because they're all heading down to Hardly Strictly Bluegrass.
Right.
And had to find unique solutions for all of them, as I couldn't let anyone else play Eugene because they were all too close to either other act. And I had to protect my investment and I had to protect the acts in the market because they're both marquee acts.
Let's talk about that a little bit about exclusivity clauses. We have some, who has exclusivity clauses in their offers or their contracts? Okay. How do you respond to exclusivity clauses when you're trying to book all those and juggle all those names and dates?
Well, I mean, everything, you don't want to play with, most of them are about 100 miles, I'm guessing. But 30 days after, 90 days before seems to be roughly, I mean, they're all a little different, but I try to, usually when we're booking the run, we have the majority of the dates in the run anyway, but I try to keep the acts that far apart anyway, because I'm just cannibalizing myself if I'm on top of myself. Some people, this has become a big trend in this area lately, is an act will play Portland, Salem, and Eugene, night after night after night. And it bugs me, because I know that, and when I sell tickets, I go through the next day and I look at the ticket report to see what cities I sold tickets in. And I know that my Salem buyers are driving to Eugene and to Portland. So when I put that third show on sale in the middle, which I won't do, I've totally cannibalized both markets. But I can do Eugene and Portland on the same tour, let them choose in Salem where they're going and all the surrounding cities in the middle, and then 6 months later, I won't play Eugene or Portland, but I'll come back and play Salem and let everybody drive to Salem, and I'll get the third hit then, but protect all of that, where I get the hardcore fan going to at least 2 of the dates.
So you're thinking that through in that kind of detail and logistical detail. Do presenters, do we have to, so we should just make the offer and we figure you'll figure that out because it's in your best interest not to cannibalize our...
Well, no, you gotta assume the agent doesn't give a
Video.
It's not the video. They're not your best friend. You got to assume that the only person that cares about you is you. And they're trying to get the extra commission, they're trying to finish their tour, and move on to the next act. So they may be a nice guy, they may be worried about it. Some agents really are good at that. Other agents just need to produce for their act and their manager so they don't get fired. So they're trying to get the extra commission in for the week because they need one more show to make their week, because they have a weekly budget. We need to make $900,000 for the week. It divides by this, so we need to make $125,000 per night minimum to make it work. So if we can throw one more date in the middle, great, we're done with that problem regardless of what that did to you. So you got to have that in mind and make sure that your exclusivity means that not only are they not playing that close to you, but if they are playing a market that's 150 miles away, that they're not getting into your marketing radius too. So it's
With
like,
advertising.
yeah, they're not. You don't see posters showing up inside Benton for a Eugene show. It's like I've noticed that's a trick where it's like, yeah, we're not playing your market. We're playing 2 hours away, but somehow posters showed up in your city anyway.
Or radio or TV ads.
Yeah, or PBS didn't want, couldn't get the local city to pledge the show, so they're pledging the show up here, giving tickets away, getting the pledge donation, so they're driving people out of the market inside the city.
Let me throw out something I heard yesterday, and I don't think the panelist is here, that an obvious first place you place any promotion if you're a presenter of the kind of things that we do here in the Northwest is NPR, OPB in particular. As a promoter, what do you think about the idea of putting money into public radio?
We normally do. It's hard in the Northwest, particularly in Seattle and Portland. OPB is very expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very blue state. There's no question, and people are listening to it. But it's also, like advertising on network TV, it's so expensive, I can't afford it for most of my shows. They have a minimum buy. It's just like, they want my entire ad budget. I can't put all my eggs in their basket and hope that they do me justice. I just can't. So for the most part, we don't do OPB anymore. And not to say that they're not a powerful station. They are. They're too powerful in this particular case where it backfired. They got too big, and now we can't financially support them because they won't take a buy-in for a partial part of that mid. I think it's $2,000 minimum is their buy-in.
It's gone up to $5,000 in some cases.
Just like, great. My ad budget for shows sometimes is $2,000. It's hard.
Yeah. Questions? Open the floor, wide open. How are the donuts?
Those are really good.
Yeah, we like the donuts.
As an artist, I do a lot of presenting, but promoting as well. How do you approach the theaters with your deal?
Well, I think that's a great question for Ray, actually, as far as what he's looking for when...
So the question was, I'm an artist, I want to get into a theater.
I do a lot of promoting, I guess I should say. I make my own showcases and series and take them places.
Right.
How do you recommend talking to the theater about the split deals?
The question is, how do you approach a theater about playing there or about setting up a split deal or basically just sort of, you're talking about pitching yourself to a buyer, to a presenter. My experience is phone calls are fine, emails are great, but they better have information in that email, like a link to something that I can see pretty quickly, or if you can lead it off with, I just finished performing at XYZ and thought that matches up with what your theater is. There's nothing wrong with saying, I just went on your website and I noticed that you have these kinds of shows. I think my kind of show would fit as well. It needs to be, that's a cold call out of nowhere, and I think most presenters are open to that if you've done your homework, and if in the actual email or phone call or I still get packets in the mail, there is enough information that I can very quickly determine what I want to do. In 8 times out of 10, I will turn and say, I can't present that for a variety of reasons, which I really won't bore you with because it's not, it's not really material. But if you're interested in self-promoting, I refer that then to Shannon on our event side, and you can get rates, dates, rentals, other information, and I'll refer you to a third-party promoter. In most cases, it wouldn't be Dan; it would be a local promoter who could really take care of you. But I don't know, are other presenters open to cold calls like that, or do you want it to come through other sources?
Most of the venues have websites too that have a rental process too that's like listed right on them. Usually has the rates and the contact person and some general information like the house capacity and some of the basic info.
One warning is don't try to get a booking 7 weeks or less, or several months or less. We're not going to have the budget to even consider you unless you're talking about 8 months out. Yes, sir.
So with your theater or others, how flexible are you? Because the rate seems set and there doesn't seem to be a lot of it. Are you willing to work on a percentage for gate, those types of things?
Generally not. We're flexible, but it's a slippery slope. If all of a sudden, sort of like the thing about, hey, I got a VIP pass because I know the drummer versus, hey, they cut me a deal out of sort of nowhere. If we start doing that, then our business model starts to fall apart because everybody wants, hey, we all want the best deal possible from the agent, and so I respect the agent saying, no, I'm not going to cut you a deal that nobody else has. I'll cut you a reasonable deal. As a buyer, I've got to be cognizant that everybody has to be treated fairly, professionally, and to some degree the same. There are some things within our rate card that are flexible, but we're not going to just sort of throw the doors open and create a deal every single time that somebody wants to come in.
But if you're a promoter not on the level of Dan, and you don't have that budget to work with, and your margin is so small, you're looking at doing a show, and you just got to walk away.
Yeah, we will take that into account, but we also know that not every room is for every single promoter, not every single act is for every single room, and It's not survival of the fittest, that's not the point. It is, however, a situation where sometimes the act has to say no, sometimes the promoter says no, sometimes we have to say no.
And rating judgment, so.
Yeah, and we don't want to say no all the time because remember what Dan started out with saying. Hey, this is about bringing arts into the community. We do not want to be the theater in downtown Bend that's dark. Why would we want to be dark?
There's also something that I think people fail to realize is you're an email address to most people. And at some point, the relationship happens over the phone, then in person, then over dinner, possibly over a glass of wine. People want to work with their friends. And then there becomes this relationship that happens where the other guy's an email address and you're this guy that had dinner with. And there's that flexibility of, I have a little bit of extra budget in my season, I can make this work for you. Or, we could do one more date, let me give that to you. And these things happen when you come to the conferences, or you meet the agents, or you meet the acts, and it creates activity, and it creates relationships. And using the phone opposed to sending the email, and having a conversation and seeing what's possible versus what they wrote and posted on that website while they were just trying to get it done and get it up so they get the kids to soccer.
I will take the liberty of consolidating this discussion of just these last two exchanges into 3 words. Meet, talk, work with. If that's the process, and if those are the steps, and keep repeating that with everybody you know, then that probably is going to be beneficial for both parties.
M-E-A-T or M-E-E-T?
M-E-E-T. I'm sorry, donuts, meat, talk, and work. There we go. Questions? Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What if somebody had a very quick, easy show, like no setup involved, and you had a slot, just one night that you were dark? Would you possibly consider working that person in if they had a very flexible percentage?
Yeah. The question was if you're dark, it's an easy, low-cost show, and would you take a shot at that, and would you even maybe consider some kind of percentage deal? I would say in general, yes, and I wouldn't even consider a percentage deal. I would consider a really low guarantee, and I would put a lot of the burden on you as the act to generate as much publicity as you can to get that place filled up, and I might throw in a bonus at sellout.
Okay.
If it's a low enough up front. Because it's not worth my time personally to figure out all the expenses associated with my show. I personally am too simplistic enough. I would rather have a guarantee and
There's nothing simplistic
and then have a bonus on the back end if you sell it out and if the act helps sell it out.
So you're saying that for that type of show, you would want a guaranteed and...
I would do a really, really low guarantee because I don't want to risk a lot of cash.
Okay, got it.
But you'd like the incentive carrot there just in case.
That's right. I want to put the burden on you too. It's not just an open night for me, it's an opportunity for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Why would you not just suggest they do a rental then, if you're going to put it all on them anyway?
Because if it's an act that I go, whoa, that would really be kind of fun. I did it, and kind of with Charles Phoenix. Anybody seen Charles Phoenix, the guy who does the retro slideshow from LA? That's exactly what my audience in Bend had a reaction to. Yeah, we don't know who he is either. And we didn't do well with that, but I wanted to bring him in, and I took the risk on a really low fee, and because it was somebody that I thought, hey, that would be really cool. That adds to our image as a performing arts center, as opposed to the ones that I may turn and say, why don't you just rent? Those are ones that, let's be honest, I'm thinking, it's 50-50 as to whether I think it's actually going to work. That one I really want to put the risk back on you.
Well, maybe I'm doing it wrong, because if I have the option of paying a low fee or doing like a ticket split, a percentage deal, I always opt for the percentage deal because as long as I can cover my marketing expenses, my tech, then I don't really care if you get the rest of the money because I got the programming.
I'm there with you. I mean, it just is, it's a matter of personal choice, it's financial choice, and I just feel professionally that if I really believe in the artist enough to spend all of my time and my staff's bandwidth and the community's attention, they deserve some kind of guarantee from me. I just don't believe in trying to get all these acts for free. I also don't believe in paying out the nose. But I don't think it's fair if we all say we're in it for the arts and we want to bring performing arts to the community and then turn around and go, oh, but we're not going to pay the licensing fees and we're not going to pay music royalties. And by the way, it's good for your career to play for free. I just think, guys, I think we're being hypocrites if we do that.
Yeah, but we don't have to admit to it.
Please turn off the video camera. Question? Oh, yeah, oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
So, what would be the best avenue to promote in a community that has no local radio, a weekly paper, and has to kind of, would it be Facebook? Would that be the best thing? Put ads on Facebook?
So there's no weekly paper, there's no daily paper?
There's a weekly paper which now comes out on Friday.
Is that the free paper? Or?
No.
What market's there? I'm sorry.
Subscribe.
What
And
market?
there is a monthly that comes out in our county.
Okay, do you have a daily paper?
We do have a daily paper from Washington. We're in Oregon.
Okay.
And also there's one in Astoria, which is about 35 miles away. However, we send them promo things for their arts and entertainment. It never gets in there because, I don't know.
Corbell has that problem with Eugene, they won't write about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Facebook's gonna be good. You're also gonna find a lot of the street promotion's gonna be good. And what I mean by that is posters, flyers that are actually hung up, not so much on poles, but like in the pizza joints, like window, and the record stores, the retail locations. I'm still big on that. I believe that I like to leave little crumbs everywhere and let people find their way back to my shows. So little
Hansel and Gretel.
Oh yeah.
Mark.
It's like an ad.
Pied Piper.
So the idea of, you saw the poster here, maybe you saw it on Facebook there, maybe you like heard the radio spot once, it all comes to this, oh yeah, I gotta go to that. Because I don't think people pay attention, there's so much white noise. I may hit you 5 times before you actually notice that I've hit you 5 times with it. So hitting them in different ways like that. So in a community like yours where you're probably not competing with 27 other posters in the windows, because there's probably not a lot of people bringing events to your town.
Right, we're the only ones.
Right. So, and there's probably some newsletters and some associations that have mass email lists that you probably get involved with. Probably the most local business chamber of commerce. You know, maybe the Rotary Club. There may be some charities in town. The library is probably still a big hang. There's probably some of these things that you can incorporate to, and then you can build your email list as well to hit directly. But obviously, starts as a grassroots campaign and figuring out how you can hit these things where you incorporate other people. And there's a lot of trades, like with the chambers of commerce. You can let them put a table out in the lobby of your show, give them some tickets. Maybe let the president of the Rotary introduce the act for the night. Find ways to incorporate them, put their logo on the posters, give them little incentives to allow you access to their email list.
We're going to wrap it up. Last word.
Very Solley, ladies and gentlemen.
That was the last word? Wow, very cool. My last word is thank you. Fill out the evaluation forms. We'll hang around for a few minutes if you have any other questions. You can reach us through the Tower Theater and through
SquarePegConcerts.com.
Okay.
I just Square Peg.
Yeah, why is it Square Peg? That was the last question.
Oh, sure, that's easy. Sarah Jessica Parker had a TV show in the 80s called Square Peg. No,
That's a better answer than what I think you're going to give.
the answer is bands tour with the stage that they build and they design for their home theater. It's usually their biggest market, by the way. So they put the show on based on a room that's much bigger than they're going to play, probably anywhere else in the country. And they travel. The rooms are fixed rooms. The walls are there. They can only be so big. So we like to feel that we are fitting a square peg into a round hole and trying to build a band's production in these fixed venues and try to make their vision work, and that's our job. We're the square peg.
We're all in this together. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.